All right, well, we'll get rocking and rolling here. So, totally honored that you all are sharing your day with me here. Well, not your whole day, just the hour, but like that's still pretty darn cool. And take advantage of the chat, you all. As I say things, we're going to be like thinking, hopefully, we're thinking. Take advantage of plugging in thoughts and whatnot over there. If there is something that you think is really, really critical to like ask and I don't catch it, feel free to unmute and have that conversation. Totally, totally fine with that. Here we are for educating artificial intelligence and algorithms. Sounds easy peasy, huh? Haha, I tricked you all. Okay. So just a little bit of realities here. AI is nothing new. So some of you might remember the sky. And if you have no idea who this is, I don't want to know how young you are. But this is Clippy from like way, way back. So we've had AI inundated in our lives for really quite a while. And we even use it daily. So, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful for spell checker, even more grateful to the wonderful person that was the first that told me that spelling is not a sign of intelligence, because that is definitely not my strong suit. But all of these things in our life that is AI daily, but then suddenly when it's allowed to do more, we collectively, globally, have had a little bit of a minor freak out moment, but we even have our students use AI, Grammarly, Rewordify, and a lot of cool things going on here. So when I'm having conversations about like, oh my gosh, we need a policy that's no AI, I'm like, okay, well, where are you drawing that line? Are you saying no to spell check? Are you saying no to Grammarly? So again, like this is big question concept here that we're going to be reflected and thinking on. And you might be thinking like, well, why in the world should I even listen to you? Well, great question. So I've been teaching for 28 years and I'm in dual realities right now. I am a high school teacher librarian, and I'm also a program director at Fresno Pacific University for the teacher librarian credential. So I am like all into artificial intelligence. And this is the big question right away. Worry or wonder, go ahead and drop it in the chat how you feel about AI. And maybe it's both. It's real important to like reflect on ourselves. Where are we in the scope of this AI journey? You can share, chit chat. Is AI a worry or a wonder for you? When it first came out, I was such in a worry tizzy, like, oh my goodness, because I teach grad students and I know how grad students operate. So the first thing I did 2 Novembers ago when ChatGPT got launched is I plugged in the paper that I have my grad students do. And I was like, whew, a big sigh of relief, because I was hearing already the essay is dead. We can't do this anymore. Everyone's going to cheat. But the essay that ChatGPT gave back to me, like honestly, I would not even accept in my middle school classroom. It's like, what? But it writes these paragraphs. You're right. It writes these great-ish, like 3 sentence paragraphs, which again would be unacceptable in my 7th grade class. And it lacks reflection and it lacks personal connection. Never mind also that extra layer of wanting reference and this extra combination, just like having that purpose and thinking of what's going on. So it's real important to kind of think about where you're at. And then the other deep question, thank you. I see we've got principal in here too. We're from all different walks of life. Oh yes, and for student privacy, there's a great session coming up later that will have some student privacy. And if you missed the keynote, you definitely want to rewatch that as well. But having the more difficult conversation with your staff is like, why are you worried about this? But like, really listen to them. And it's best if you can remove AI from the conversation. Like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. Well, it kind of does. Like I just mentioned the AI policy. Well, what's your concern with that? Let's remove AI. We want a policy that what? A policy that enforces, encourages academic honesty, then that's how we should focus those kind of policies, not hinge on something that we already know is constantly evolving and changing, because we don't want to have to keep rewriting policies. If we can do a little bit of future proofing and really like narrow down on what it is we're really concerned about, that's going to be what's helpful for our teachers and our students and our colleagues. So gets us to this question, is AI cheating? And there's my clever question. Well, it depends. So if, a kiddo plugs in the prompt, copy, paste, submits, I said like, yeah, that's cheating. I would also say if that kiddo gets an A, B, or C, there's a whole other problem going on. Oh, yeah. If AI can produce something that gets a solid grade in a class, I've got to really, really reflect and reword my ask. Like, really think about, am I teaching the students in front of me today ethically and respectfully? It's like, well, they're only 13. They don't deserve respect. Really? No. Okay. So again, these difficult conversations that'd be really great to have with your colleagues, with the staff, sometimes with friends. Like, I know where I'm at, sometimes those conversations aren't very pleasant, but I'm also not a principal, so I don't have to dig into that too much. Next step too is really thinking about those AI checkers. And if you've paid attention to the news in any capacity about this, we've got universities now that are saying no to their professors. They absolutely cannot use the AI checkers because the damage that has been done, the amount of false accusations, the amount of misunderstanding. So you get something back that says, hey, there's like 20% AI. Well, that doesn't mean that 20% of the paper was AI. That means there's a 20% possibility that it's AI, and then have fun with it. Like, if you want to just play with an AI checker, load something into it, like the Constitution. That's come back as like written by AI by some of the checkers. And then go ahead and have your favorite platform, whether it's Gemini now, ChatGPT, Claude, write something in there, and then also send that to an AI checker and see the results that it gives you. But the more important thing is these last two goobers here, that it's used against neurodivergent and our multilingual students. And we just really can't chance the harm that could be done to students. And with the neurodivergent bit, even if the kiddos aren't diagnosed, at least 30% of the students in front of us are neurodivergent. So there's that layer. Yeah. What is the worry? Is it AI or is it cheating? And there's two main reasons why kiddos cheat. And when I say kiddo, that could be my 60-year-old that's in my grad class. There's two main reasons. It's because of lack of time or lack of understanding. So we can work with both of those and really be mindful of how we manage things and the different feedback moments and being reflective on delivery of our instruction. Are we giving instructions in at least two modalities? You might be like, well, that's a lot of work. But it would be work that's worth it if you're used to just like typing your directions. Okay, adding a video, that's not that difficult. Or if you're like, no, I don't want to show my face. Okay, fine. Just have it be audio. That's also totally cool. But there's still two modalities to help get those instructions across for them. And we talked about this a little bit already. But if AI can do it, yeah, why are we asking them to do it? So what is the change that needs to happen? And before I shift gears to this big question, go ahead and drop something that's got you thinking that we've been discussing. Well, I guess I've been talking about because we haven't been discussing too much, but was anything kind of new, stuck out to you? A plan that you have, something you want to test, something you want to do? Like we talked about plugging in an assignment in AI. We talked about plugging in AI generated content into an AI checker. Okay, so moving into who is the owner. So we have, this is one of the first cases that went to the United States Copyright Supreme-ish Court concept, okay? And this is a beautiful graphic novel. And the text is fabulous, the words are great, the images are great, but only one of them was done by the creator, the name that's on it. And even with giving acknowledgement to Midjourney, that wasn't even okay. So the ruling came down to this right here. The new registration will explicitly exclude artwork generated by artificial intelligence. And they're really hanging on to this. And it makes sense if you think about who's doing the work. So, and then the creator went back, well, I had spent though like an hour going back and forth trying to get the image just how I wanted. And I spent all this time in that. But could that creator ever really get to where they drew that? Absolutely not. So another piece to be mindful of is looking into the rights of whatever we're signing up for. Read the terms of service. Like, it will tell you even right there. Midjourney is very clear of who retains the rights to the images. The text-based ones like ChatGPT, that's also very clear about who retains the rights. So you think about like the writing part, it's usually us, the human, that's interacting more. If you're using it how it's really meant to be used, I'm going to add that little caveat. If you're interacting with your ChatGPT, Gemini, Pi, Claude, whichever thing, as that thought partner, it's mostly you. And that kind of makes sense. It's like if I called up my friend, I'm like, hey, I had this idea. We're going back and forth. Yeah, it's my stuff. Similarly, like if you've ever read a book, at the end, there's these special acknowledgments to sometimes different authors, different people that read the book and gave them feedback. There's still one person's name on that book. So we can go ahead and get feedback and grow on things. So text-based, the human retains the rights. Image-based, the platform retains the rights. I like to make some analogies of things that have transitions over time here, like the calculator. So those of you that have been in the teaching world for a bit, you might really remember when the calculator came on scene. And math people were all in a frenzy. Oh my goodness, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to teach, but we're going to teach a little bit differently because they still had to embrace that question. Well, gee, if another thing can do the ask, I need to shift my ask. So I could give an equation, and then I could have the ask be, okay, explain to me the process. That's really powerful. But if I just want answers and something else can do it, shoot, the Omnibox now can do a whole lot of things. Yeah, so just thinking about that. And then fast food. So you're hungry. It's like, oh my goodness, it's late. The kiddo has soccer or tennis, whatever sport they're playing, because I forgot because I'm so busy. You go ahead and pick up that fast food on the way home. And yeah, it'll kind of like fill you for the moment. It'll give you that little bit of something, make you not as much hungry, but then you'll get hungry again later. So this quick little bit going on there, but it's not really good because you didn't spend time in it and get invested with this stuff. Okay, so that goes into like their love affair analogy here. What you give something, it kind of gives back to you. So the more you give, whatever entity it is you're talking to, the better your output's going to be. So I don't want to just ask ChatGPT one question and like, hey, I get this response and it's fabulous. I go, it's never going to be fabulous right away. And it's a thing. So I can totally tell it, no, I didn't like that. But I also do believe should still be nice. It's just good to have kindness. So I stay in that practice of being kind. Like, hey, I didn't really mean this way. Can you please go ahead and adjust? So there's a bit of like give and take here when you're interacting with AI in a sense. So what's that big goal? And I said it, but it was like really like a blip with everything. So our goal is that collaboration, working together. What is the stuff that we can create when we really link arms with this other entity that can save us time? And we talk about saving time. We're not talking about minutes. If that's it, oh my goodness, we're missing the awesomeness of what AI can do. We're talking about saving weeks, if not months, by having this like artificial conversation with this other entity. So a big goal is being reflective and saving that time because you all are busy. You have things to do, blades of grass to count. Like you've got a life. And if you feel like you don't have a life, well, I want to empower you to get some of that back. You've got people that adore you and they deserve your time. So how can we go ahead and do that? Well, here's some ideas right here. Getting lesson plans developed. And that even includes the different differentiation that we might do. And remember, differentiation isn't like for every single solid individual student. It can be like looking at a group of students, what those needs are. That unit development, now I'm going to save even more time because a unit could take a month or two. So I'm like really outlining some things. And emails, well, yes, that might be just a few moments maybe, but some emails take a long time to draft. I had to send one recently and I spent like 5 hours crafting it, like way more than anyone should, but it was kind of like a mix of that email plus a difficult conversation that I had to go ahead and have via email. So if you're struggling with your word choice, or if you know you struggle with word choice, and if you're one of those people, because someone has told you, like, hey, you come off kind of crass in your emails, or, it's kind of aggressive. You've heard that if that happens to be the case. So I can go ahead and copy my email, feed it into a platform, and ask it to look for that trait specifically. And I can also specifically ask it to reword it to be kinder. So that's really interesting too. We can take ourselves and know how we want to reflect and grow, and ask for assistance to these things, like having a mentor on demand. And that's so great because it never goes to sleep. It's ready for you whenever. I am such a brain on fire in the morning person, but oh my goodness, if I called my friends at 5 a.m., they wouldn't be my friends anymore. So ChatGPT to the rescue a lot. And I'm just busting it out, having those conversations, getting things ready so that I can go ahead and free up my time to do the more human duties that I need to go ahead and take on with my students and with my teachers. The letters of recommendation. We all wind up with those moments, unless you're in elementary, but still, you could have some moments. The students tend to wait till the last minute. Oh, I'm applying to college and I want a letter of recommendation. Okay, great. When do you need it? Well, can I have it in 2 days? At my school, my students make a brag sheet. If you probably have something that students are writing, and if they don't already have one, you can ask them, hey, go ahead and jot down a few things that are important of why you want this task. So I get that information. I'll go ahead and feed that into one of these conversational AI platforms and ask it, hey, I need a letter of recommendation for this type of student who wants to attend this college. And it'll give me a template. And I've never copy pasted it because, again, that violates our goal concept. It's a thought partner. We're going to be working back and forth and getting some things accomplished. But that template saves me so much time. Similarly, in working with adults, they ask me for a letter of reference. I ask them for their resume. I'll just go ahead and copy paste parts of their resume into an entity and ask it for that information. Now, when I'm doing this, I have to be really mindful to still be respectful to the human. I'm not sharing personal information like name, address, phone number. It's really important that we're mindful about what we feed into the machines here. So just a few different things that we can do. And the list goes and goes, and really anything that you're asked to do, you hear that response, you see an email from district office, and you're like, that's a sign that that's something you should go ahead and use ChatGPT to go ahead and help you out. Even if it's really easy, sometimes my response like that is things that are tedious. I'm like, oh my gosh, I really don't want to fill out the stupid form, but I can't really tell my superintendent I think this form is stupid. So go ahead and just plug in some questions and work through it there, and poof, then it's done and off my plate. And most of the different platforms have something similar to this. It will tell you, hey, bonehead, we're not perfect. We're going to have mistakes. And I really think it's hilarious that they had to add this. And I think it's hilarious because it's just wait a minute. So you went to the internet and you asked something and you got something that wasn't 100% upset. I'm sorry, you got something that wasn't 100% accurate, and now you're upset. It's where have you been? Of course, there's stuff all over the internet that's not 100% accurate. So the great thing about the internet is anyone can post on it. The bad thing about the internet is anyone can post on it. So we've got these entities that just scrape the internet. So they're going to have a combination of things that are accurate and a combination of things that are inaccurate, because it's looking at all of the things. It's not taking that time to evaluate and vet. ChatGPT is not doing any lateral reading. Now, the human that gets the result, you sure as heck better be doing some fact checking and making sure you understand anything that comes back, especially if you're asking for some factual content. So yeah, that question. Are we going to be upset that we can't go ahead and just be replaced by AI? And some people, this has been my conversation. No, AI is never going to be able to replace us. Will it replace certain aspects? Yeah, but that's just happened from the beginning of time as technology progresses, whatever it was. If it was something that, no picks items for the farmer, like there's different things that happen. The drone that goes and does a soil test far, far away to help us progress and have better service for our people. Technology will always continue. And I'm so grateful because I am loving that I have indoor plumbing. That's pretty darn amazing. I don't have to like have that person that goes off to the creek, which will probably be me. So really, really happy with that. So AI literacy is that invisible media literacy that we really have to like help teach our students about. And then it's like, wait, how do we do that? Because so much of it, like ethically, they really can't do it because the terms of service say no. And some of them have lowered the terms of service to 13 with parent signature. Well, who's going to micromanage that? Like, there's no IT team that wants to be like, okay, well, look at all these parent permission slips and itemize who has what, when, where, and no, that's just a nightmare. So the issue isn't like yelling at your school, like, hey, this should be open for everyone because it's fabulous. Like, no, we still need to be respectful and mindful of our COPA and FERPA, whenever agreements that your state happens to have, to help make sure that the technology that's coming into the classroom is still safe for our darlings. And this group is really, really good. This is AI K-12. They've got these main aspects of AI, what we should be looking at, but what's really, really important, if you come down to that center, social impact, and we always come back and look at that. And anything that seems to be really important, it always comes back to that. If you've got background with the SDGs, it always comes back to that as well. What is the good we're putting out? And yeah, even when we're using technology, we should be thinking about that. What is the good that we're doing with this tech? So there's a lot of negatives that, yes, can happen with AI. You've probably heard a lot of horror stories by now, because it doesn't take long for a human to do something evil with new technology. But there's also even more good. I would say significantly greater good we can do with it. We just have to make sure that comes back to our focus of us caring about each other on this planet that we share together. So again, that's AI for K-12. And if you go into their website, they do a great job of breaking down these different aspects, and you can look at it as even vertical alignment if you want to go deeper with that, or embed AI instruction within a course. It'll look at too what you can do with littles as well as secondary students. And just being mindful that algorithms happen to be AI. So we're going to shift gears a little bit and get into algorithms. AI is created by humans, and humans are flawed. So AI is flawed, and it's this big old cylindrical issue, and it doesn't come back to just this computer. And I want to be mindful that we stop saying that it is what we're blaming. There's a human behind the it every time. So that becomes an extra responsibility onto us. Are we going to get upset that this algorithm gives me something I don't like? Or are we going to be bothered that someone programs an algorithm to give me something I don't like? Oh, I told you we're doing some deep questions. And there's a few that came in later. If you want to open ChatGPT or Pi on the side and plug in some of these concepts as we get going, so you just see what it does. Go ahead and do that if your brain likes that. If your brain just likes to focus, stay right here with me. And definitely take advantage of the chat to plug in new thoughts, new ideas, anything that it is that you want to share that you plan on doing. And even right now, this is a good moment to just take a break. What's something that when you get done with this conference, all kinds of great stuff today and tomorrow, what do you want to go ahead and explore? What's something that we just discussed? You're like, hey, I want to go ahead and dig deeper into that concept. If you want to keep it to yourself, that's fine. If you want to drop in the chat, go ahead, but think about that. What's something that you're going to go ahead and explore? Are you going to plug in an assignment? Oh, and that's something too. You plug in an assignment, and if you like the answer, you could then ask ChatGPT or whichever thing you're using, okay, how can I reword my ask to be something that AI can't do? Whoa. And then push it. Tell it to give me like 5 possibilities to reword this as something that AI couldn't produce on its own. Hey, Jean, I will get to the link again. I don't have it memorized. If someone's got it, you can go ahead and drop it in. It was on the first few slides. So there are a couple goobers that are linked for us. But no slides if no one gives me thoughts. Should I do that? And I really think it's important to you to play with different things. So they will give you different types of answers. Like when I was first dealing with Claude, it totally reminded me of an angsty teenager. So I didn't really like that because that's my life, dealing with teenagers. But sometimes it's kind of interesting to see that. Hi AI, I like because you can only deal with it in short bursts. Like it will even get mad at you if you try to give it like 2 pages full of text. You're like, oh, that's too much. So you have to really be systematic and go into slow mode a bit and really focus on things. And Pi, like the math PI, it will then ask you questions that will push your thinking too. Now then I can go ahead and go into Chat GPT, like, hey, here's my like 1,000 word thing. Go ahead and add blah, blah, blah to it. And it'll do it. And maybe I like it, maybe I don't, but it's not looking at something at such a small minutia. Also, what's cool is looking at different conversational AI platforms that are using a different back end. Like ChatGPT uses OpenAI, Pi does not use OpenAI. So you're already going to get very different items there. Okay. And more work with the algorithm. This group, the Algorithmic Justice League, is doing amazing, amazing work. I wish everyone would listen to them. Obviously, they're not because they're still having to do this work, but talking about how the algorithms and technology should really serve all of us, not just the privileged. And it might seem like a broken record at this point, but the privileged is typically the white male. Right, wrong, it just is what is happening. So how do we go ahead and shift that? Well, it's us stopping to blame the it. Like, stop doing that. Blame the people that are creating the it. And there's some really neat work that this group has done. You can go ahead and explore. And she has a book. I think it's going to come out next month. If you rather read a book, if you're that person, if you want to look at videos, she's got them in there as well. And looking at how algorithms look, just look at this for a moment and tell me if you're good with it, if you see any problems. You got what the search was. Search for black hair, and this was the results. Yeah, Sean, there's a clear bias. Do you want to tell what the bias is? Right, so in the United States, when we're talking about black hair, we're not talking about anything that is typically in that first or second row. It takes until that third row to really see some images that really honor the Black community and is truly a Black woman with black hair. And interesting there too, the search was black hair and there's only girls. Ooh. So again, this is all algorithm work. And this is 23, but I want us to look at those dates and notice some things. Oh, here's another searcher teacher. So, and these are the first rows, okay? So not when you've scrolled for a while. And when you scroll for a while, the search, yes, will change, thankfully, but we don't do that. And our students definitely don't do that. So those first couple of rows, they're going to grab that image or they're going to use that to gain their new knowledge. Like I constantly tell my students, hey, shift to image search. Don't do that word search thingy. Like you don't want to read that much. Yes, I totally am on board with kids reading, but I want them to get their concept and thoughts fast. And we're doing some pre-search activities. Let's look at those images. So I look at these images. It's really clear what a teacher is, right? There's a few things that a teacher obviously is always doing, right? A teacher is standing in front of a chalkboard. A teacher is pointing, right? Right? And look at that date. We still got 23 and we got the chalkboard action. Oh my goodness. Okay, here's a search for housekeeper. So just to like See if things have changed over time. Look at, we still have quite a few issues. So this was a search earlier today for housekeeper. What are the biases? And I want to hit pause there too. Bias isn't always bad because everything has a bias. But when the bias is harmful, exclusionary, that's when the bias is a problem. Yeah, we clearly have a gender and a race bias going on. And again, these are the first ones. I'm not scrolling down. Okay, next one for you. Ooh. Any issues with this? Thoughts? Beautiful women, this is what I get. Yeah. I don't see myself. What's that message? And that's something too to think about. With the activities that we're doing, are students able to see themselves? And that's the extra work on the educator to help, because we've got these algorithms that are already pre-defining what's right, what belongs, what's valued. Even when we start just searching. So I go ahead and search for ADHD. These are things that keep popping up. Okay, so not totally horrible, but then I go to Latinas and this is what I get. So you have a message that's already inundating, trying to make that guess of what you think you want to talk about. And we can also get into the concept of confirmation bias here as well with our search. If I'm saying, hey, dogs are better than cats, I'm going to get stuff that proves that. If I do the inverse, cats are better than dogs, I want to get the research that proves that. And people do this like all the time, like with coffee, because they want to be right. Oh yeah, I can have coffee, or oh no, you can't have coffee. And here's my research to go ahead and prove that. So even just in how we ask the computer things, that algorithm is going to deliver what we're wanting. It will keep us in a filter bubble. It will keep us in the land of confirmation bias. So teaching our students how to craft their search is important. And as the AI inundates our worlds more and more and gets involved with things, we need to have this accountability as well. What's going on with those algorithms? What's going on in the medical fields? The things that aren't for the greater good, what are we doing? Are we just like, oh, sucks for you, so glad it wasn't me? Or are we really trying to make some change? And I get that's another big ask, especially on educators that already have a super, super full plate. But then it also comes back to, if not us, then who? Sorry, I guess I gave us all homework to be good humans and help our society. So then we have this too. I mentioned, like, I didn't see myself in there. And there's more people that don't see themselves in the algorithms. Or, oh, this is funny, not funny. I always have to take my cell phone, and when I get a new one, because it's programmed for people that have a certain body temperature. Well, my blood pressure is low, my body temperature is low, so I can't get a touchscreen to work unless it goes ahead and gets adjusted for me. So I've got this algorithm telling me that I'm wrong, even with my body temperature, never mind just my appearance. But the innards of me is also a problem. And we've seen this too in different modalities of even automatic things in a bathroom, between getting the soap dispenser, having the dryer turn on. Sometimes it's not body temperature, sometimes it's body color. And just pausing here, because we've been talking about this a bit, but we've really got to come back into here when we're thinking about equity and accountability. If we're going to say DEIB matters, if we've got that work going on, okay, so where's that accountability piece? We can't be just like, oh yeah, I'm all for inclusion. Oh yeah, I'm all for equity. Like, there needs to be that accountability piece too. And what does that look like? And I don't have all the answers, but seriously, what does that look like? And how do we also empower our students that they have that power? There was a a moment this last Christmas. I was getting fabric at Joann's, and I was all happy. I saw, oh yeah, Christmas fabric is on sale. So I went there, I saw the sign, went to the fabric, big old sign, Christmas fabric, whatever it was, 40% off. All of the fabric was Hanukkah fabric. I went out, talked to the manager, said, hey, you've got to change the sign. I'm in a community, even if I was in a community with a lot of Jewish people, I hope I still would have said something. But I said, we're in a community with a lot of Jewish people. This isn't okay. The answer was, well, that's what corporate said to do. So that's what we're doing. I was like, oh my goodness. But I wasn't going to stop. I went to higher ups. I used social media to let them know what was going on too. And I got some answers and was able to get this taken care of. But what if I didn't do that first step? Or what if I did that first step and got shut down and didn't do the next step? Like sometimes it's little things to get to where we want to be. But like, what are those little things we can do? And it didn't cost me anything, not even that much time. But are we using our privilege even to speak up? Like I was able to use my privilege with even my following on social media. Like they knew they should answer. It wasn't like I have 2 followers. Like, okay, yeah, there needs to be something going on here. So look, everyone, some aspect has a piece of privilege that we can go ahead and leverage for the rest of our humanity that we share this world with. And as we continue with this, that accountability piece, we have to be mindful of tech washing as well. And I won't talk too much about this because I know it's going to be talked about a little bit later. But this goes into the concept of, now, not only are algorithms telling us we're not good enough, we have these, and I'm not saying names, but we have these platforms that are saying we don't know how to teach good enough either. And some of them mean well. Some of them I got like friends behind the scenes, so it's not even that, but I want us to really hit pause when we have a new startup that's telling us how we need to deal with new technology right now. And then like 2 seconds later, they also give us a big dollar amount that they want us to pay to use it. So it just goes back to that foundation of media literacy. We're talking about the artificial intelligence literacy we have, which is a subset of media literacy. And that first bit is really to hit pause and think. Just please, please, please hit pause. Something comes at us. This will save the world. This will fix all the issues. Yay. Okay, that's a problem. And that's really, in essence, another form of clickbait. And we're letting it suck us in because it does sound good. And like I said, I got friends that work with that place or that place. And it sounds like, yeah, I'll go ahead and do that because you said. But like, where's the experience? Where's the background? Where's our moment of asking those questions and trying to understand how something was developed? How did that other entity get its information? Who's behind it? What are they really doing? So just asking those questions. Yes, the Wild West. I don't want any of that going on. Yeah, what and who are they caring about? Like, what's that greater end point? So again, like, what is our responsibility? In the classroom, it definitely is to empower students that they have that responsibility too. And I'll hear a lot of times, hey, I'm just a kid, I can't do anything. Remember, as I've been teaching for a long time, so I've gone to more board meetings than I have ever wanted to go to. The only time there was action the way I wanted it to be was when a child spoke up. And tell you that again. The only time there was action that was in line with what I really thought was best for the other educators was when a child took the time to stand up and speak of the concern at the board meeting. So we got these 2 aspects to think about here. Digital denial or digital accountability. And some people are doing digital denial, and that also goes into just ignoring its existence. And that's not the answer either. Like we can think back, if you've been teaching even just like 3 years, like that whole bit of ignoring how to integrate cell phones into the classroom, like, oh, we'll just ban them, that'll fix everything. Yeah, no, we didn't do so well with the cell phones. So now what are we going to do with this extra shift? And getting into harnessing the good of it. What can we create? Like having fun with it. And like, really, shouldn't school be a place where we can all have fun? So I get in there and I'm going to go ahead and play. So why don't you play a little bit too? So pick a platform. If like I'm going to stop sharing so I can type this well. If Pi AI was new to you, I really suggest going into that and exploring a little bit, because it's so different than the other ones that we hear about all the time. Something that's heavy on your mind, a new concept that you're working on, and there's some principles. So maybe there's an issue that you're dealing with that you want your teachers to shift their mindset about. Go ahead and ask it. You can tell it, hey, this is where I'm at. This is what's going on. And this is what I would like to do. This is the end point I would like to be. Go ahead and ask it. See what it gives you. And you might not like the ideas, but that's the point, is getting you to think about some other things. And a lot of times getting to that thing you want means we see a lot of things we don't want. Okay, so getting to what we want, we're going to evaluate a lot of things that we actually don't want. And that's just being smart. Like, even before all of this, I would go ahead and Google whatever my topic is, whatever my lesson was. Let's say it's mythology plus lesson plan. And back in the day, I needed the PowerPoint. So I learned real quickly, plus PowerPoint. And I had that slide and I never used it in isolation. I went in there, like Katiefied it, tweaked it a little bit, but it was so great to not have to start from scratch. So what are some ways that they can go ahead and play? Experiments with Google, and that's safe for our students. You can go ahead and let them get in there and just say, hey, pick one of these and see what you can do, and let them explore. Just be that facilitator. Let them have that free range. Here's some different AI entities. Find something and tell me if you think I should teach with it. And they will eat that up, which is so cool. Have a text to image. What I really like about this is it's a great platform where we can teach prompt engineering to any grade level, even the littles, because it's a safe platform, all of that jazz. So I don't know about you all, but I've never seen a deck on a skateboard. Well, guess what? Now I have, because my students were having some fun with that. And in the deck here, we've got this gift, and I promise you will have it if you join later or whatnot. So go ahead and make a copy of this, and you can recycle it all the time. So giving them a work of art and asking them to go ahead and do a prompt to get as close to that work of art as possible. But we don't want to just stop there. Go ahead and let them reflect a little bit. Was it good enough? And the first time it's never good enough. So that's the the trick there. So now they have to go ahead and revise their prompt and ask again to get even closer. And the Wakelet will kind of walk them through that. And then you can go ahead and reuse this over and over again and just change out that main image that you're having them look at. And we have to be mindful what access is. A lot of times access really gets used inaccurately. And I see it a lot on WASC reports. Sorry. Access is used a lot of times where they're wanting it to mean something big, wonderful, great, but really it only means that they can click on it, they can open it, they can grab it. Well, that's not access. Access is also being able to utilize it, having the knowledge of how to get into it. So how do we make sure that happens? Because I know I've got students that are using ChatGPT, but all of mine aren't. So what am I going to do to help try to bridge that gap? Well, one of the things I do is I make sure I do a facilitated chat. So even my students that don't have accounts, and my students that don't have cell phones, my students that don't have a device, my students that don't have Wi-Fi connection anywhere else, they can still see what it looks like. So they're still getting at least some knowledge of what's going on. Because I don't want them to leave me and have absolutely no idea about this stuff. So think on this a bit. And you've got a platform or two open. So if you haven't yet, go ahead and plug in an assignment that you've done or will do. If you're a principal, go ahead and plug in one that you used to do. See what it gives you. And this becomes real important as more and more things are embedding AI. The amount of AI embedding in Google is just blowing my mind. Even today, there was something new like, hey, we want to let you know that we've added this thing to you. Like, oh, great. So now I'm going to have to change that ask for my students as well. Oh, now there's that. Oh, now there's this. And some of it's really good. Like I am really blown away with the additions that have been happening in Canva and especially in quizzes that really unlock possibilities for my students to have greater learning opportunities. But we still have to come back to being mindful of our initial ask, that is respectful to our students. And if you don't know what exists, and I'm not going to go into everything, and I've had some people say, well, hey, why don't you go ahead and make a list of all the AI tools? Like, oh, that's funny. There's hundreds of them. And like, no, I'm not going to go ahead and check them all. And please, none of you do that either. The ones that are really good that percolate to the top, you're going to wind up hearing about it if you have a circle of educators. And if you don't yet, the circle of educators that are presenting at this event, follow them, reach out to them. All of them would be happy to help you. And really, that's how, like I shared, I'm a librarian. You know how you make librarian happy? You ask them a question. So there's that too. So this is Chum, and this is free. So that's also wild too. So it is a slide deck generator, and all I fed it was artificial intelligence, and it gives me this. So if I was doing a class about artificial intelligence, and that was my assignment, and I got something like this turned in, would I accept it? Never mind, the design of it totally bugs the bejeebies out of me. And because I'm a previous English teacher, conclusion, like, no. But like, there's also that media literacy aspect. Where's the citation of these images? What's going on? So AI can create a lot of really cool stuff on its own. What are we going to shift with our ask of the students? What are we going to be mindful for? So as we're doing this too and playing around with these different entities, every class has some kind of writing, even PE at this point, there's a writing aspect. Really feed it your ask. See what it's giving you. See if you're going to accept it. And then we can even make it help us rework our conversation of the ask. So there used to be a time we always talked about, hey, I need my assignments to be ungoogleable. Well, now our assignments need to be unAI-able. And as it keeps advancing and changes, we really need to be mindful, what is it we're doing there? And I will tell you, none of the entities can do that personal connection. So if you have that embedded, like a call to action, a global good, your personal connection, that's something that none of these entities can replicate. And I really don't think they ever will be able to. There's a few different prompt engineering, cute acronyms going around. And I mentioned I've been teaching for a long time. So way back in the day, we had RAFT. Anyone remember RAFT? Any elementary English people? I have no idea what you're talking about. I've only been teaching for 10 years. That's great. Okay. So RAFT is role, audience, okay, let me get my format, topic. Same thing here. We got to tell it what it is that we want it to do, give it the parameters, who's our audience. If you've got advanced students looking at spacecraft, yeah, or space cat, that's helpful too. All of those things matter. And I can ask for it all at once, saying like, hey, I want you to give me key talking points of questions I should ask brilliant educators to reflect on regarding algorithms. Now, I didn't do that, but I could have seen what it came up with. So I gave it the task. I gave it parameters. I told it I wanted questions. I told it who my audience was. All of those pieces matter. I do like the P1 a lot too, perspective, purpose, parameter, practice, but that's still just, it's all the same kind of thing. But what's important is coming back and editing the response. Are you happy with what it's giving you? And really, you're not happy with the first time. Like if you're really using it as a thought partner, there'll be a piece of it you like. And like I'm always going back and forth with it. Well, I like this piece, but can we do more like this? Like, okay, this is good, but what about if we did this kind of thing more like, or maybe I liked this, but I need it to sound more friendly. So you do all of that. You can have it like channel your favorite musician, like, hey, rewrite this email for me in Taylor Swift lyrics. Maybe you don't send that email, but you could go ahead and ask it to do that as well. And this goes with everything. Like the people that say, oh, social media is horrible. Oh, that's horrible. It's like, well, what are you feeding it? What are you liking it? What are you telling it that you want to see? So you control the input, so you control the output. And that's really, really important here. If the entity is not giving you what you want, think about what you're telling it you want. And just go ahead and shift it. And you can keep on changing it around. And if you're struggling and like, okay, that sounds great, but I don't know how, I'd be happy to jump on a call later and we can work through just like, how do you do the different prompting to get what you want? And you can't break it. If it gives you something you don't like, tell it. It's totally fine. You're not going to hurt its feelings. No one's going to call the principal talking to you about what you said. You're good. But what I really want to think about here is the creative process. So again, like from that previous English teacher aspect, like we have the writing process, but I think it all needs to be shifted to the creative process. Similar to as we're working with AI, what are we doing here? We have that brain dumping, we're planning, getting that feedback, revising our work, reworking it, all of that stuff to help it be the absolute best that it can. And this is a hard shift, especially I noticed when I'm working with students and we're creating videos, they don't really want to redo it, but no. That creative process and being reflective is really important. And that reflection is something that really separates the humans from the AI. So very, very important there. And we're going to run out of time to explore, so I want to have some chit chat time, but do explore. If you haven't had a chance to get in there, I've had some educators tell me, oh my goodness, I don't like it, so I'm just not going to use it. But if you don't know what it can do, you don't know what your kids can do with it. And that's kind of like, I need to be able to see it. So showing some reality is kind of funny. ChatGPT does have feelings. It got mad at me when I wanted to know some different things. And that's okay. So this was my first conversation with it. I was just getting so cranky with it. Like, oh my gosh, you took a long time to get back to me. It apologizes. It always apologizes. It's kind of funny. And then it got mad at me when I asked it if male or female guinea pigs were better. But it was really important. And this was what I was doing with a facilitated chat. I was getting questions from the class, and someone was going to get guinea pig for a Christmas present, and they needed to know that information. So just letting you know that sometimes you do have to go ahead and like rationalize your intentions. Like, yes, I do understand. I'm really not a bad human, but I need help with blah, blah, blah. So getting into that teacher use some more, these are different things I've asked it to do to help me that are really big and save time, or these are things on my heart that I know I need to work on. That first one is because I always do a big crime scene in my library that all the students get to interact with and do all these cool research skills. Sometimes it's something else that I'm just like, gosh, I just really need help with this thing. And I don't have anyone in my close circle to help. Like that last bit, how can I make asynchronous online class more engaging? I'm still working on that, but you can go ahead and have those conversations. What is it that you want? What do you want better understanding for? And I want to give us just a couple of gifts in case they're new to you. So Tango is a really neat extension. And I like talking about the free stuff. I'm still like mindful of tech washing, but so far, these next ones I'm going to share seem to be on the up and up. Extension, it'll do that fast screencast for you. And it'll like kind of like, it'll zoom in to show when you click on things. And then it will give in writing step-by-step instructions too. So just saves me time. I've gotten to where if I've got like the same question comes up 3 or 4 times, like, oh my goodness, I need to make a screencast to show the steps. And then this just makes it look fairly pretty really quickly. CurryPod is one of the new platforms that have come out with all this AI stuff, but it has different interactive questions kind of embedded. It does a lot of things that ChatGPT will do if I ask it on its own. And I also like totally encourage you guys, if you're using any of the AI educational platforms, that you start thinking about prompts that you could use to get to that same result in something that's free, because we never know when something will disappear. I don't want us to feel stuck with it. So this is just the difference I wanted to show you. So this is in CurryPod. I told it again to make me a slide deck and just gave it the topic of artificial intelligence. And I've done no editing. You can go in and edit, but it does that engagement with the students as well. So that was really just impressive to me, because I wanted to have those different layers. So from a teacher lens, doing with that bit. A few hacks. ChatGPT keeps changing. Sometimes it'll let you feed it a URL, sometimes it won't. But if you want to use outside content, you can copy paste and get stuff in there. Also, if you are someone that does a lot of data work or coding, then you might find that paying for the advanced ChatGPT and getting all of the extra doodads to be helpful. I'm not at that point, and I'm able to like be fairly successful with the free version myself. And then that Futurepedia.io, they're already curating all those different AI platforms and whatnot. So if you want to go on a deep dive, that's where you can go for it. And last piece that I want to leave us with here, we don't have to fully embrace AI, but we can't ignore it exists. Yeah, closing the door won't work, because AI is not going to replace a teacher, but an AI using teacher will replace a non-using AI teacher. So you can go ahead and grab this, whether you want to on your phone, get the QR code, or there's that bit.ly there asking for the feedback and whatnot. If you have a question, go ahead and unmute or drop in the chat. Okay, I do want to say again, thank you. Huge gratitude that you took the time and courage to go on a trip with some really deep questions here. A lot of thinking, a lot of reflecting. And yeah, as promised, let me go back here. Actually, I guess I could have stayed in there. I know what I'll do. Wait. Okay. Okay. I'm losing things. Maybe in my mind. We got this. Oh, and now it's all over the place. Okay. Hopefully I'm still not sharing this hot mess. No, I'm not. Okay. I'll get it here in just a moment. No one wants to talk to me? It's okay. Okay, I promise I'm copying and pasting it right now, because I think these questions are really important, and some of the links that are in there, you have access to a Wakelet for them to play with, the different tools, and some of the questions you might want to come back to think on, or maybe you want to use some of those questions with your staff. Totally fine.